Welcome back to Project Brupeg. Last week we got to wash the sides of the boat with an impromptu heavy weather test when we got a little bit of tide against wind. That was a bit of fun. Pearl Bay, the first anchoring spot for us as we hauled up the coast towards the Whitsundays. This was a great anchoring spot for us. We had southeasterly trades and it's completely sheltered, as you can see. The bay started to fill up with boats and then empty each day. We stayed here for a day or two waiting for a weather window. And it was really nice to be this remote and this sort of isolated. It's the first time we've had Brupeg this far away from anything. We're not massively remote. We're probably 50, 60 kilometres as the bird flies towards the nearest settlement. But there's nothing really around here. It's an army training ground, so the place is pretty barren. Brupeg was a sunken fishing trawler that was stripped out and ready for the scrapyard. She's just completed a 10-year rebuild that's brought her back to life. With the help of volunteers and funded by our Patreons, community and subscribers, she'll be crewed by passionate people from around the world. If you'd like to be involved and support the project, please consider joining us on Patreon or subscribe to the channel. There's a link in the description below. After a particularly boisterous trip north into Pearl Bay, we thought we pulled into a bay that was like really idyllic and calm and all that sort of stuff, and it was calm. The wind was pretty low, the tide was pretty manageable, there wasn't much swell, but they're doing hazard reduction burns just downwind from us, so the area is basically blanketed in like forest fire smoke as they're doing like burning off all of the dry, you know, scrub and bush and stuff like that, so that it doesn't flare up in the summer. So now we had to stay here to wait out the weather. The weather's now good. We're probably going to go a couple of hours earlier than we thought to get out of the smell of all the smoke, because it's giving both of us migraines. Our rest day has been sealing the boat up so that we don't have any smell from the outside come in, and not being able to go on the outside of the boat basically. Right, engine check times. Coolant, hydraulics, oil, grease, more oil, electrons, power. We're following a pretty traditional route when you head north in Aussie. We're leaving Pearl Bay and we're heading to Middle Percy Island. This should be a pretty straightforward voyage. We've got a good weather window and Middle Percy is a pretty well-known anchoring spot.
We've just slowed down 7.5 or 6 and we're just gone down to 7.3. Oh, 7. And then that's going to save, we're now on 24 litres per hour versus 27, so a little bit of savings there. It's just balancing the budget, the cost of fuel.
Going from a stressful swim to a medium relaxing swim.
I will tell you one thing, I don't want to get in the water right now.
No.
What is it? It's 36.8 metres and there'll be sharks in those waters.
Yes. So reference, it's just lost RPM. I've restarted it up here and nothing happened. So I restarted it in the engine room and still nothing happened. So I'm not sure what's going on. I'll have a look maybe when we stop tonight. I'll have a look just in case any fuses have gone. I can't see how that would change, but yeah, don't know what's going on with it at the moment. But everything else is working. It's just that we've lost RPM.
And this is why we're doing so much testing on BruNet before we release it out into the wild. There's a very specific reason why the tachometer or the RPM stopped. We now understand it, but it took us about 2 weeks to actually get to the bottom of what's going on.
Dragging quite bad apparently.
Thank you, Pearl Bay.
Yeah.
Fuck the fires, but other than that it was good.
Apart from the fires, it was actually a really nice day. Great holding.
It's lovely seeing boats come in and go over at Two Eyes.
It's deceptive because it looks like it's really far out on the coast and exposed, but it's tucked behind a whole bunch of islands and a reef, and it's actually really quite a decent bay. There'd be a prick in it northerly, but it's southeasterly, it's great.
Yeah. Hello, my darling. Hello, my gorgeous little 7. I don't know if you can see there, but she's sitting on a nappy. She does tend to poo herself when it gets a little bit rough. She was without medication and she pooped twice and peed once. And she survived it, but I sort of give her a break today, get her back, sort of reboot her brain. So she's on a half dose of medication today. Just learning her as well. She'll sleep a bit today. Migraines are slowly ebbing away. I've got opened the boat up to air it out, so neither one of us are good with things like coal, dust or smoke or anything like that.
That's our full journey there, and this is locally what we're doing. So that island there is that one there.
And as you can see, this is the Percy Island here, and we're going out instead of up the coast today.
So But this bay gets 6-7 metre tides, and it rushes in and out of here, so you can get some lumpy weather around here, and you can get some big tide flows coming in and out of here.
The golden day is to have a smooth ride, and we get to Percy Island, anchor up. It's a swell out there, it's exposed a little bit, so it's not going to be the most comfortable of anchors, but beautiful island and not too bad. It's a little bit protected, and we'll go from there to the next island, and then we're up to the wet Sundays. So it's best case scenario, it's 2 nights. Worst case scenario, we're really tired, we'll spend the night somewhere and cope with the roll.
Time to do an engine room check, but I thought I'd show you out here. Beautiful conditions. So this is a missile firing range for the Australian Defence Force. So like bombs, missiles, you know, army training, whatever it is, it's basically the Defence Force uses this whole area. Most of the time you're not allowed to access any of these bays. They have NOTAMs, notice to mariners, that tell you when you can and can't, and at the moment they're not using it. They're doing burn-offs, so we're allowed to use these bays, but they're covered in smog and like fire burn-off, so it's all good. All right, time for an engine room check. I need to put a bit more grease in that prop shaft and just have a bit of a look around.
I've yet to build the little catch can that I want to put underneath the stern gland, but I've got some soft engine nappies. You can see that sort of white material that's underneath that stern gland, and it's capturing all of that grease that's coming out. Working really well.
Yeah, everything looks pretty good in there, so just head back up.
This gives you an idea of how glassy calm it was, and this is part of the reason why we waited at Pearl Bay for a day, just to essentially let the weather blow itself out, and then we're going to be following this high pressure system north to the Whitsundays. We have 5 days to basically get to the Whitsundays, and once we get there we're going to be anchored up at Ely Beach, and the weather's predicted to turn to sort of 40 knot gusts when we get there, so we want to sort of chase this high all the way up, because this is perfect conditions for Brupeg to steam in. And to show you how much I'm not exaggerating, I'm going to speed this footage right up, and you'll see it just stays like this for hours and hours. I think you get the point.
You're all I ever wanted, can't you see? Got to follow through in a game for two. It ain't the way I want it, got to follow through. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh. It ain't the way I want it, got to follow through. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh. Should've got you when we started, got to follow through. It ain't the way I want it, got to follow through. What if you would tell me that?
We have to be really careful when we pilot Brupeg, not to bump into the island. She's quite fast, and you can see there's an island up there on the starboard side. I mean, we're sneaking up to it at a pretty impressive speed. Same with this piece of land over here. Don't want to bump into that. Got to be pretty careful. Pretty careful indeed. You can also see the last of the fire smoke from the hills in the distance.
You're all I ever wanted, can't you see? Got to follow through in a game for two. It ain't the way I want it, got to follow through.
I used to be a competitive sailor when I was younger. In fact, I even did ocean racing on race boats, so I'm pretty well aware of what it's like on a sailing boat. For those of you that watch sailing cruising channels, this is the main difference between motorboat and a sailing boat. So you can just sit on your bum, drink coffee, you can put peanut butter on some rice cakes. Look, you can just quietly and calmly walk around and eat them. It's lovely. Oh, I better steer. Oh, okay, that's enough steering. And that's basically the difference between sailing. If this was a yacht, we'd be wet by now.
Ain't the way I want it, and I gotta follow through. Gotta follow through. It ain't the way I want it, got to follow through.
It's practically impossible to see on the camera, but where we're going through, there's about 1 to 1.5 knots of tide that sort of flows sideways across where we're going. So the boat's actually experiencing quite a few eddies and things like that, so the boat's sort of wiggling and twisting around. We were travelling at about 7.5 knots, and it knocked us right down to 6.7 knots.
6.7. 6.8, 6.9, 7 knots, 7.1.
We're speeding up.
Slightly, yeah. We've gained half a knot of boat speed getting through that journey bit.
This was the most weather we saw all day. I think we'd be lucky if we had 3 knots of wind. The sea was just absolutely flat. There was practically no ocean swell whatsoever. It was just incredible steaming conditions. Unfortunately, the autopilot is still playing up, so we have to hand steer, which you can see is pretty hectic. Pretty hectic indeed. The island you can see in front of us is called South Island. It's the first island in a group called the Percy Group. We're approaching from the south and we're going to anchor in West Bay on Middle Island. If we zoom in a bit closer, you can see West Bay is a big sandy bay with a fringing coral reef. It does get a wee bit of roll coming around the corner. You can see it on this photo, the waves heading around from the left. For the boat geeks in the audience, I love this view of Brupeg. It shows just how easy this hull is to push through the water. There's just virtually no bow wave, and this is almost hull speed on this boat.
Oh yes, they are going to be awesome. So I'm chopping it up because it's too hard to eat off the bone. We don't know what sort of weather we're going to get. Look, it's pretty feral out there. Could be breaking into swell at any point, and we might really struggle to use knives and forks. Have a look out here. This is why I love being away from the coast. Look at the colour of that water. Like, it's just incredibly clear. You don't get that when you're tucked up next to the side of a country. We're not that far off. We're 26 miles off the coast. If these islands out here weren't there, you wouldn't see land anywhere around us. So it doesn't take that much to get away from land once the curve of the earth starts to factor in. But look at how clean and clear that water is. That's why we go offshore. So while I cut this meat up, I'll tell you the clearest water that I've ever seen in my life was when I used to work on boats in the Southern Ocean. So we would go to about 1,200 miles south of New Zealand. There was an area south of an island called Auckland Island. If you have a look on Google Maps for Auckland Island, there's this tiny little slither of land way down in the Southern Ocean, about, I don't know, 600-700 miles I think from memory, south of New Zealand.
This is when Jess and I were first married, and I was doing auditing for the New Zealand government to make sure that the foreign boats stuck to the rules and we managed fish stock in New Zealand.
We would go down there. We were about 1,200 miles south of New Zealand, so we were pretty far south, and we were fishing for squid down there. And so I spent weeks and weeks and weeks at a time in the Southern Ocean. I spent about 9 months of 1 year. The last year I did the job, I spent 9 months in the Southern Ocean, so I was down there for a lot. But the thing that always stood out for me was just how clean the water was. It was just incredible. You could probably see, I had a guess, I had no frame of reference, but I would imagine you could see 100 feet straight down into the water, and it was like a dark blue-green colour, just incredible. Absolutely normal behaviour. Nothing abnormal here.
And it is very glassy out there. This is what the guys call a
SEA STATE JESS.
SEA STATE JESS.
When you can see your own reflection at 15 miles.
Our mate Pat on Salonika was having a conversation with Jess about the different health conditions that she struggles with, and he synchronised this in his Navy-trained NATO frogman brain and came up with the sea state that we need to hunt for on our weather windows. SEA STATE JESS.
This to Indonesia.
Yeah. All the sailors are going, no, what are you doing?
Yeah, I suppose that's
Yeah.
the opposite to what they want.
Yeah.
We find that the last hour of a trip, we just kind of put the hammer down. It just seems to naturally happen. So here we're cruising at just under 10 knots so that we can get into the bay, get the anchor down and get settled in for the day. Middle Persea Island. This is West Bay, so we've come from that direction through there. We've basically anchored up. There's a few boats here you can see, half a dozen boats or something, and then quite a few like smaller boats, runabouts on the beach. There's the A-frame, the very famous A-frame on the beach that everybody leaves their cruising mementos at. But the weather's pretty remarkable. There'd be less than a knot of breeze. It's been an awesome day to cruise up. We're at about 9 meters of water. It's kind of ridiculously clear. You can see every imperfection on the paint on the wings.
It's holding quite nicely, isn't it?
Yeah.
Haven't seen the stabilizer look like that in the water before.
No, normally we can't see the end of the stabilizer in all of the ports and stuff we've been to. You've been spotted. So an uneventful steam for us, which is exactly as we wanted. It's been incredible to be able to experience the boat with all of the systems that we've built over the years, with so much help and volunteers and support from our community, just working as they should. It's been really amazing. Yeah, only kidding. The following morning there's a heap more we need to cover. Out the side we've got current running that way and we've got wind coming in this way, so you can sort of see how much current there is with the stuff floating past. A lot of the boats are pushing out because the weather's coming in, so let's get the engine started. We thought we'd spend longer at Middle Persea Island, however we were chasing this weather window, so we pulled anchor the following morning and gassed it.
You didn't say the words.
So we're going. So with the clean bottom and prop, Brupeg slips through the water really easy, just over 1100 revs, 7.5 knots, and we're burning 23 litres now. That's a really consistent number that we've seen, really pleased with it. The anchors on the nav screen here, that's a tanker anchoring area when they're waiting to go into a coal loading port. You can see as we're steaming through this area, if I zoom right in, you can just make out that there's no boats on the horizon and it's just a massive rainstorm. Let's try that again without zooming. You can see those dots on the horizon. They're ships, generally bulk carriers for coal. From memory there was about 20 of these ships anchored in this area. It's quite a large holding area. Here we both are filling in the time, blissfully unaware that our microphones weren't recording a thing. Mics are back on now. So each one of these green dots is a tanker. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, plus one out there, 19 that are like waiting in the anchoring area. And the anchoring area looks a bit like this. Every one of these little anchors here, I'll come and zoom in closer. Every one of those, so it's an area that ship's allowed to wait in. So you can sort of see they're all positioned roughly in the middle of those circles. So that's what we're having to avoid at the moment. We're just going around the outside here. Shipping channel is over here. There's another shipping channel that way. Yeah, we're basically just skirting through so that we can go off to our island over here that we're going to anchor into for the night.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah. We've just been told on VHF that there's a tanker coming in between these islands that's making its way to the anchoring area. We've resolved this now, but look, the tacho's at 0 and the battery stator charge is at 100. That's a clue as to what was going on. See if you can figure it out and put the answer in the comments. Our Australian flag is almost a British flag.
So how have you found the first, 5 legs or something of the trip so far?
Everything up to now has been like, you know, little bits of tests and refining things, but this has been the big test for me. How we'd go, how the kit would go. Like if something's not been done right, it'll show up on this trip likely. So
we've also had like calm weather tests, which don't really tell you a lot. Like they kind of say, yeah, okay, it's working, but you don't know where the limit of whatever that system is.
Yeah, you can't say that your poon to Pearl Bay was a
calm weather test.
Calm weather test. It was not a calm weather test.
The waves were basically ocean swell with wind swell, all heading in the same direction, so that was manageable. But then we got an area where they have up to 9-metre tides that we went through that was tide against wind. So we were getting some really short, steep, sharp waves that were, I would say, probably 3-metre waves. So they're not massive height, but they were less than the boat length of Brupeg. So you'd surf and then bury, then surf and then bury, or if you've cocked it up, you'd lay the boat right over. And
I wish I got some film of it.
Yeah.
We're too busy, but I remember at one point I was at the helm and I looked sideways and we were coming off a roller.
Yeah.
And there was a gap where the boat was about to launch into it. It's like, oh! We were going just sideways, like about 20 degrees or something.
With stabilizers, like without the stabilizers, the boat would have been unmanageable. We were surfing it. Some of them were 10 knots down the front of waves and stuff, which for this boat is essentially Mark 3.
So we've gone out about 40 nautical miles out from the coast, and it's very different. You're not getting those swells and waves and things. We're kind of meeting up with the boats that we're kind of anchoring.
Yeah, we're seeing the same boats on AIS turn up at the anchorages every time.
Yeah, so we're a big slow mammoth of a boat, and they're fast. They're and some of the yachts are disappearing, and And now we're both through the testing. I can see Damien relaxing. He's like me, he's a bit stoic. He doesn't say when he's worried about something. We have meetings and we clear the air, like we tell each other what any concerns are or what we're looking out for. But when you actually get into it, it's you just do it, you know. But I'm seeing him relax. I'm seeing him sort of slow down a wee bit, which is really great. Because the systems are on his shoulders when we're out at sea. So Duncan has been we've been in touch with Duncan. Damon and Duncan have been talking a little bit about Brunette, just seeing what's happening. Damon's just said he's doing a grease run, so he's going down, checking the temperature of everything down there, putting some more grease in, and he'll be back up. And, so we've been on the road. We've been even doing some checking and analysing. So it's a pretty amazing journey. So thank you everyone, and I'll sign off for now. We'll show you around the corner, and we'll anchor up, and then that'll be it for the night for us.
Time to turn the engine off. She's done really well. I think that was 7 hours or something like that. 77 hours on the engine now. Today's anchorage, so it's pretty calm. Over here there's boats even closer than I'd be comfortable with, but it looks like they're literally on the reef. It's a pretty amazing spot. We're in a southeasterly breeze right now, so there's not a lot of wind coming down on us. Morning brekkie, we've been deciding whether we're bunkering down here for a day or two or pushing north because we're looking at weather. We did have this amazing weather window. It was great. It was going to be like 0 to 4 knots, and it followed us all the way up the coast, and then that disappeared.
And this morning I heard some banging around, and I got up to check. It was about 1, and of course that, you know, you're awake, so that's when you check the weather window, the tides. You check. You remind yourself when everything's happening, and the weather window's closing quite fast. So we're going to skedaddle this morning. The big boats have started leaving already, so we think good move. We'll get going with them.
while we had the drone up, we saw this little fella coming over to the boat to have a bit of a look. And when we had a look at the drone footage later that day, we realised there was maybe 6 or 10 turtles all around the boat that we hadn't seen the first time. Alright, let's give this another try.